What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to the return, the first of Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm Noah Strackbein, and I wish that I had a better way to kick these things off. Because, man, as I walk down the tunnel here at Acrisure Stadium, and I look at the river, and I look at the beautiful sun, and a city that should be glowing, all I think about is that 75,000 empty seats left this place miserable, sickened, and very worried that week one of the NFL season was nothing but a sham, and that the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they were in for much, much, much worse than we thought when they left MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, and find all my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And if you go on there right now, you'll read a headline about Mike Tomlin and the defense and Caleb Johnson and how the offense, well, it didn't look good, but it wasn't because of the offensive line. It was because of the wide receivers, a group that a week ago looked ridiculous, where there were no questions to wide receiver 2. That was Calvin Austin with Ben Skoranek, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, anybody and everybody filling in when needed. And, well, you leave Acrisure Stadium today, you don't feel the same way. But the wide receivers were a very, very small part of what was a massive problem for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when you spend more money than any team in the NFL except for one on defense, you should never give up 30 points a game. But right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, through 2 weeks of the NFL season, they average allowing 31.5 points per game to opposing offenses. Those opposing offenses, their quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Sam Darnold. Their opposing offensive lines gave up multiple sacks in the other game, not including the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Steelers, they couldn't do anything. The defensive side of the football is scary bad in Pittsburgh right now. And yeah, there are flash plays. There are interceptions from Nick Herbig. There are interceptions from Jalen Ramsey. They're big hits. There are tackles for loss. Logan Lee is out here making plays at times. But when it's all said and done, the team and the group, they are far from good enough to do anything. They are far from good enough to compete for a Super Bowl. This is not a defensive unit that is going to get you anywhere in the NFL, because it can't get you past Sam Darnold. It barely got you past Justin Fields. Really, it didn't. Aaron Rodgers got you past Justin Fields. And the guy that a week ago we were ignoring because there were so many other good things to talk about, and it was the glow and the hype and the honeymoon phase of a victory, of a week one victory. That man we ignored the issues of. That man we looked at and said, well, he's 1-0 as a head coach this season. He's got everybody clicking. Everybody respects him. Everybody loves him. He walked off the field with Aaron Rodgers blocking his ears, shutting out the boo birds, and heading into the locker room with a victory. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, they were back. We were here. Things were beautiful. Yeah, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers are far from back. And their head coach should have every single eye on him imaginable. Because it is not the poor play that stands out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is not the lack of wide receiver depth that sits here and concerns you. It is not the offensive line still being questionable. It is not the lack of a run game. It is that Mike Tomlin still chooses to do things like send Kenneth Gainwell onto the field when Jaylen Warren is having the game of his life. It is Mike Tomlin choosing to punt on 4th and 1 when you desperately need momentum in a game where you are losing, and then, well, swiftly lose that game even worse because, well, Mike Tomlin doesn't know when to build momentum. Mike Tomlin hasn't known when to build momentum in a long, long time, it feels like. A coach that knew how to fire you up, that knows all the good things to say, that knows when to say them, does not, and has not really, had the touch of a guy that in-game knows how to bring a presence and coach a game to get his group on their side. I remember growing up. What's up, AST Nation? I've teamed up with DraftKings. The next great touchdown is coming. You can bet on it. And the best way to do so is through DraftKings Sportsbooks, where new customers who bet $5 get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen. Then use your bonus bets to stay in on the action and bet on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. And don't worry, if sports betting is not yet available in your state, you're fine. You can still join in on all of the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Sign up using my promo code ALLSTEELERS and get in on the action. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Constantly, the Steelers would do things like go for 2-point conversions and 4th downs. And my dad would look at me and he'd say, only Mike Tomlin would do that. Mike Tomlin's one of the few that would be ballsy enough to do that. It's been a long time since Mike Tomlin has had a day and a play that you looked at and said, only Mike Tomlin is ballsy enough to do that. Because he's not. He seems to be one of the least ballsy coaches in the NFL. And he kills his team time and time and time again. And that is just the cherry on top of a situation where the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing terrible defensive football. Terrible defensive football. And you want to know who controls that defense? It's not Terrell Austin. It's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's the guy that refuses to move Keanu Benton. Mike Tomlin is the guy that refuses to test out new inside linebackers. Mike Tomlin is the guy that can't seem to get his unit to work in any capacity when they're loaded with talent. Where's TJ Watt been? In 2 weeks, where's TJ Watt been? Nowhere to be found. And I don't think TJ is a bad player, but I think for 6 months, we talked about TJ Watt being a guy on the opposite side of where he usually is. For 6 months, we talked about TJ Watt flipping with Alex Highsmith to create a presence so that he doesn't get eliminated from games. We're 2 weeks into the season. Where's TJ Watt? Because he's doing very little on the right side of the football. He's doing very little on the left side of the football. And you got to wonder when these changes are going to happen. And when Mike Tomlin's actually going to force some adjustments. Because those things don't seem to happen. I don't know if anything gets better. I don't know if the Pittsburgh Steelers change anything in a week. What I do know is that the Pittsburgh Steelers gave up 400 yards against a Seattle Seahawks team where their leading rusher ran 13 times for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So there are issues, and those issues need to be addressed. And you can pinpoint those issues, and we will. Those issues are simple. It's, where is your real nose tackle? How do you get TJ Watt more involved in a game? At what point do you look at your defense and say, we got to figure something out, and I don't know what that something is, but those changes need to happen. Juan Thornhill can't play an entire game because, well, Juan Thornhill is playing really poorly. At what point on the offensive side of the ball do you say Jaylen Warren is running back one? Why are we messing with it? Why are we trying to force things that don't need to be forced? That's what you're asking. And then on the flip side of that, when it comes to Mike T himself, okay, how do you keep momentum? How do you build momentum? How do you create a presence as a head coach that says, I am igniting fear in the other team, and I am putting my guys in a position where the environment is created through us? Because that is what the Steelers lacked, is an environment created through them. They don't create anything. Jalen Ramsey created things last week when he got chippy with Garrett Wilson, and Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Darius Slay, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, and Mike Tomlin himself all acknowledged that when Jalen Ramsey got chippy, you felt the energy start to create itself and build in the Pittsburgh locker room. You felt that this team finally got things going because Jalen added a fire and a spark. Okay, how do you do that without your top defensive player fighting people during games? Because there has to be other ways. Otherwise, Jalen's going to have to get chippy every single game, and the Steelers are going to have to hope that they could ride that momentum the whole time. But they can't do it. And their head coach is killing them in the process. Because when Jaylen Warren provides that spark by taking his offense 33 yards in a play that is ridiculous, and he breaks every tackle known to man, and he's able to come out there and do things that, well, the Steelers needed the whole game. 2 plays later, he's on the sideline for a guy who hasn't had a good run in 2 weeks. And I'm not saying Kenneth Gainwell's a bad running back. What I'm saying is that you make smart coaching decisions to say, hey, maybe we ride the hot hand. We built a running back room that rides the hot hand. And people will say, well, that's Arthur Smith. Yeah, okay, because Arthur Smith got beat for 100 yards by Kenneth Gainwell last season and then acknowledged that that game was the reason that they brought him in. No, it was Mike Tomlin, whose defense got torched by this guy 2 years ago, and who said, I want that guy on my football team, and then brought him in to be on his football team and make sure, and continues to make sure, that he's going to be a strong part of that football team. That's the Mike Tomlin effect in a very negative way. And it continues. It's continued for years. So you want to put the blame on anybody? Don't put the blame on Aaron Rodgers. Don't put the blame on the offensive line. Don't put the blame on the wide receiver core. You know, they did not play well, and they did not help Aaron Rodgers at all in this game. But the offense had opportunities to create a spark, and their head coach killed it multiple times. And I think at the end of the day, you can only go as far as the people leading you. Well, the leader in Pittsburgh is not great right now. And again, Mike Tomlin's a Hall of Famer. He's a guy that would be very, very difficult to replace in the NFL. And there are a lot of games that you put on Mike Tomlin's shoulders and say he is the reason that they won that. But there are a lot of games that you put on Mike Tomlin's shoulders and say he is the reason that they lost. And this is one of them where there are a lot of bad things, and Mike Tomlin stands above the pack as a what are we doing and why are we still doing it situation. I'm about to leave Acrisure Stadium now. I'm looking out onto the river once again, one more time. There's a bunch of boats out there. Should be filled with parties. Everybody should be bumping. The Point State Park should have water flowing out of the tunnel and bikes riding around it and people celebrating. The streets should be crowded with drunk folks who are afraid to go to work tomorrow but are too excited to stop because it's only 5:30, 6:30 at night and things are good. Life is good. The city of Pittsburgh is ringing. Instead, I'm checking my phone for the call-in show on Wednesday, and I'm getting message after message from people leaving the stadium calling, sharing their thoughts about how miserable they are right now. The city is gloomy and it's beautiful. Doesn't make sense. It's where we're at. It's where the Steelers are at. And I think after so long, I think a lot of people are getting really tired of the situation. I feel like it's well-deserved to be tired of the situation. And I don't think it changes, and Mike Tomlin will never go anywhere. But at some point, fingers have to point directly to him to say, fix it, because that's your job. And if he does, great. And if he doesn't, well, this is going to be a long season. And all those people who bailed and bashed the Pittsburgh Steelers for months while we tried to sit around saying, relax. Well, it's only week 2 and there's a long season ahead. But right now is a point to say, fix it or don't. And we'll see what Mike Tomlin does. Thank you guys so much. We are back with Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. I'm fired up. And even though it was a dreadful day and a dreadful episode, I love that right now I am walking out of the stadium, getting to talk to you guys and bring you guys my thoughts as we leave a game that, well, should have been more beautiful than it was. Still, we're here. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back later for the flagship show. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.